Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm not using a microphone down here. Thank you for joining us. It's already the fourth Sunday of Lent, also known as LentA Sunday. Father Eric and I are wearing these rose vestments because rose is a more joyful color than the violet we wear the rest of Lent. LentA means joy. And so on this LentA Sunday, we pause from our Lenten practices in joyful expectation and hope of the resurrection, the great feast of the resurrection that we will celebrate in just a few weeks on Easter Sunday. But this has been a Lent like no other. This year, the Lenten sacrifices, the Lenten practices that we have undertaken, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, they have been eclipsed by social distancing and shelter in place. This year, we have been forced to fast from human interaction, from social interaction. We have been forced to fast from the sacraments. And we don't know how long this fast will last. The shelter-in-place order here in Santa Clara County goes through April 7th, which I think is the Tuesday before Easter. But that can easily be extended. The order announced by the governor, the statewide order announced by the governor on Thursday, is indefinite. There is no end date as of now. And so many of us are fearful. Many of us are feeling uncertain. We are feeling as though we are prisoners in our own homes. And on this day, this LentA Sunday set aside for joy, it can be hard to feel joyful. I have heard some people even opine that this pandemic is a punishment from God for the sinful ways of the world. Let me be clear, I do not believe that. Not for a second do I believe that. And as I was praying and reflecting this past week, though, on the gospel passage for today's Mass, the story of the man born blind, I was struck by similarities between the story told in the gospel and this situation in which we find ourselves, this shelter in place. Certainly, the man was feeling fearful, feeling anxious, just as we are now. Being born blind all his life, had to be a fearful and uncertain situation for him. And then, when he is cured by Jesus, he's thrust into this controversy in the temple. He's the subject of a controversy. He's interrogated, questioned, doubted by the temple leaders. Certainly a fearful and uncertain situation for him. He's forced to defend himself for being cured by Jesus. This man had spent his entire life as an outcast of society. He was not permitted to have any social interaction with the other citizens of the city, other than the begging that he was forced to do just to survive. And so he's an outcast his whole life. He's cured and he's cast out again. But what struck me is how this story begins. When the disciples ask Jesus, why is he blind? Is it because of his sins, or is it because of his parents' sins? There is no possible third explanation. It's one or the other. And that was the conventional wisdom of the day, that any person who's blind, who has any physical malady, who has any misfortune at all, that is because of sin. It's a punishment from God. But Jesus says no. He refutes this idea of a cause and effect of sin and misfortune. That didn't hold water then, it doesn't hold water now. And so this man who's outcast is kind of like us. We are also separated from one another. We are fasting from human interaction, and we are in need of Jesus. But unlike the man born blind, who didn't know Jesus until he was cured, we know Jesus. And unlike the man born blind who was completely isolated, we have the benefit of modern technology that can keep us from becoming isolated. Technology like this that we're using right now. But I have seen on social media many Catholics very upset, very distressed by this other fast that's been forced upon us, this fast from the sacraments, especially the Blessed Sacrament. We so desire to receive the Lord Jesus in Holy Communion that it's almost painful to feel as though we're denied that grace, the grace of that sacrament. But let us not for a moment believe that we are fasting from Jesus. Let us not for a moment believe that we are fasting from the grace of Holy Communion. We are separated physically, and yet we come together via this technology, and we are able to share spiritual communion together. Make no mistake, the Lord Jesus is here with us now. Make no mistake, the Lord Jesus is there with you now. And that fact gives me great hope, and I hope it gives you hope as well on this Laetare Sunday. And so this morning we come together, even though we are scattered in many different locations, we come together as a community of faith to listen to God's holy word, to share in spiritual communion. My prayer for all of us this morning is that we will warmly receive the healing that the Lord Jesus offers to each of us. That, like the man born blind, we will proclaim, "Yes, Lord, I do believe." And that we will allow the Lord Jesus to accompany us in our separation, to offer us spiritual healing that we need, and know that the Lord Jesus desires for us to be reunited on that joyful day when this horrible pandemic has subsided.